Hello there. How do you like your commander-in-chief so far? You know, the overweight ex-real estate tycoon, reality TV show host and later president, then ex-president who couldn't admit to being defeated in a free and fair election, who was then convicted of having committed 34 felonies in a court of law, and then he finally, somehow got his office back, for reasons that still escape most of us. Yeah, that guy. Okay, it's not like we can't fight City Hall. We can remove this large, ugly blot on our nation's history. It just takes a little doing, planning and conspiring. There are a few ways presidents and kings can be removed from office. America has a time-honored tradition of filing to impeach its leadership and watch while a majority party in Congress allows him to continue to hold office despite the overwhelming call for his removal. The first Donald Trump administration has already gone through that exercise twice, making a few of us wonder if the orange discoloration of his skin belies a reaction to having been coated with Teflon from birth. Other countries have ways of dispatching their leadership. The most common way is to launch a coup d'etat. This happens when a country's military finds enough reason to break the reins of power through force. This rarely ends well, because often the whole constitutional order must be reformed. America, our country, has only two constitutionally prescribed ways to pull this removal off legally. Those are the aforementioned impeachment. The constitutional removal in this manner, though possible, has never been used successfully. The next is a thing called the 25th Amendment. We will briefly run through the parts in Section 4 of that amendment that might be helpful. Welcome to the Frank and Honest YouTube channel. We are a small channel that provides common-sense videos about political issues through the lens of common people who may be directly affected by those issues. We humbly request that you hit the like button if you found this content useful and subscribe to our channel if you want to be notified of more content in the future. Section 4 of the 25th Amendment states that if the Vice President and a congressional majority declare the President unable to serve, the Vice President becomes acting President immediately. In this case, unable to serve can mean death or illness, including, one would suppose, mental illness. This last statement is what quite a few apologists have been arguing about for the last several months. The President can then submit a written declaration to the contrary, and resume presidential powers and duties, unless the Vice President and a majority body of Congress declare in writing within 4 days that the President cannot perform his duties, in which case Congress will vote on the issue. This section of the 25th Amendment has never been used, although the Reagan administration came close. On March 30th, 1981, after President Reagan was shot and undergoing surgery, his administration prepared the necessary papers to invoke the 25th Amendment and make then Vice President George H. Bush acting president. The papers were never signed, despite some members of Reagan's administration, Congress, and even his doctor advising otherwise. Later in 1987, Ronald Reagan was described as inattentive, distracted, lazy, and inept by several concerned members of his staff, who suggested invoking Section 4 to remove him from office. His chief of staff, Howard Baker, soon determined he was anything but incapacitated and took no action against Reagan. Only later, after he left the White House, Ronald Reagan was later diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. At this point in time, we have the possibility of invoking that section again. We have a president that a significant number of mental health professionals have publicly expressed concerns about the psychological fitness to competently serve as President of the United States. These concerns are rooted in his observed public behavior, communication style, and policy decisions, which some psychologists interpret through the lens of specific personality disorders and signs of cognitive decline. Neuropsychologists have publicly requested that Mr. Trump submit to a full neurological workup and cognitive screening, such as the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, or MoCA, arguing that his age and observed behaviors necessitate a formal medical investigation into his cognitive health. While Mr. Trump has reported a perfect score on a past MoCA, experts note that those results are outdated and a comprehensive evaluation is needed for an accurate current assessment. Before we go any further down this rabbit hole, we need to ask if the effort required to pull this kind of action off would make the situation any better, or even that different. If the 25th Amendment were invoked, we could still have a cabinet loaded with the same kind of loyal, sycophantic yes-men, but instead of being loyal to a crazy Donald Trump, we would rather be faced with the interesting prospect of rule under J.D. Vance, with people like Stephen Miller and Russell Vought still running the show behind the curtain. There is also the possibility that Trump may never be completely silenced, but rather rule the country in absentia from behind the walls of some mental hospital. The alternatives are to do nothing, or attempt a third impeachment of the Donald with a very slim possibility of removal, but the problems involved in a government still laboring under the dark shadow of Project 2025 still hanging over this country. Thanks for watching. What do you think of this situation? Should the country pursue invoking the 25th Amendment for a psychiatric discharge of the 47th President of the United States? Please let us know what you think in the comments below. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the like button.